before we begin, it's clear nobody on this panel has class.
No, we're all classless.
No. Yes.
We're in a classless system.
It's not really what I meant. We literally have no class.
No class. So we're talking about classes today because they are a big deal in terms of community. And where we work, Indoor Media, we're all about local advertising and connecting local businesses with their communities. A lot of the businesses that we partner with and we serve have class. They do class. Fitness, that's always going to have a class. Yep. I've seen a lot more restaurants host like cooking or like cupcake decorating, that kind of things. You see classes or events there and stuff. And so from a marketing perspective, a class, whether it's something that you offer for just, hey, this is one of our core offerings, we'll teach you the best way to wash your car. Or if it's a one-time free thing that you can use to fill your funnel, they're really helpful things to have because they serve the community.
Yeah. We've got a bunch of companies that teach classes to youth, you know what I mean? From kids to older kids, like Code Ninjas, and I'm trying to think of a few others. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, and classes are so interesting, right? Because you're selling an investment, basically. You're selling a development. Like what you're really saying is you're going to get something. You're going to be more at the end of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to consult and so forth. And it's so, in some ways, the idea of the sale of a class doesn't quite mirror. I guess what I'm trying to say is, there's a greater parallel when you do classes between it's not like I'm trying to hard sell. It's not like a used car. Buy this, I'm going to push you. It's a one-time transaction. That's what we're trying to do. The experience is so important. So there's more similarity, like doing classes with, say, maybe giving a free something away at your restaurant, like a sampler. Try us, try this.
Yeah.
Because most places that have some sort of class or education or whatever have intros.
Well, I agree, and I think there's two different angles to it, because on the one hand, you're right, selling a car is different than selling a class, in that, for a class, you're essentially selling like, hey, so for example, I took one of the Sur La Table cooking classes.
I'm sorry, what?
Sur la table.
Oh, Sur La Table.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, got it.
I took one of their cooking classes.
Oh, très bien.
And obviously it was the type of thing where they expect you to come in and buy something
and surrender.
And surrender. Yeah. But it was, the way it was framed was here is Sur La Table's branding. They are accessible, but slightly more elevated than you would get shopping from Pottery Barn or Target or whatever. So the act of taking a class at Sur La Table means that I can say, oh, I took one of the Sur La Table classes, and that's on the lower rung and stuff. So you are kind of selling this association where you're like, all right, well, I did this thing and I'm kind of a part of something, even if it's just their email list. But the other element of it is, and this is applicable to all marketing, what we're doing in marketing is selling an after status. So whether or not you're selling a large pizza, you're saying, or you're selling a bachelor's degree, you're saying that after you buy this, you are going to feel satiated, you're going to feel excited because you can dig into a pizza. Versus if you're selling a bachelor's degree, you're saying your after state for this is going to be that you have a certain level of esteem, or that you have the ability to do blank or something. So you're correct, is that it is different. But I don't know. I see links across, both.
Yeah.
Man, are you one of those guys who's like, oh, that, I hang out with Sur La Table people, and
Absolutely.
like that's not how you do it.
If
Yeah,
Because you took that class.
because James and I have friends that like if we even said sur la table, it'd probably end up with an ass whooping.
you can't even say the word.
No,
Well,
just like real men can't say kiwi.
What'd you say? Wait. What'd you say?
I guess what I'm talking about is the mindset as you're looking for the solution to whatever the problem is.
Yeah, and so here's I think if you think about I think the reason this all came up to begin with is we were having kind of a pre-podcast discussion about a business that we know that they do classes and they're having trouble because they have competition now, right? And that's kind of what got us off on all this. And I think what's interesting is there's good parallels between the things that business should do to kind of right their ship to get their competitive advantage and any other local business. Because let's face it, unless you're doing online classes, if you're doing local in-person classes, you are a very local business.
Yep.
You need people that are that are willing to travel. It may be a little bit wider radius than your normal, say, restaurant or something like that, because if I go too far a radius on a restaurant, there's another steakhouse I can go to or a bunch of different steakhouses. Whereas a class, if you're learning painting, there may only be so many options in the whole city. But a single competitor really cuts into you a lot harder than having yet another Saltgrass on the other side of town.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
I love marketing classes, like education. When I had the agency, we had a few customers, and I like it because it's cut and dry as to what people are looking for. When they're looking for you, like it's awesome, right? Because there's a built-in demand for it. Obviously, if you're a restaurant and you're doing something like a little different, that's a little bit of a different case. But if you're teaching, pottery, right? And usually there'll be a few in town, but yeah. So I can see how, say there's 3 pottery classes in town, schools, and then one more comes in. I mean, that really can stress people out, right? Because it takes up some of that market share just by default.
So Roger, tee us up. Like this was your friend that has that's doing the classes. They were doing fine, meeting their goals, their revenue goals. The right number of people were coming in, and what you told us before is that they've kind of seen a slip off. It's a little slide going down in the number of people coming in and signing up. Okay, and every local business can relate to this. Whether you're a restaurant or a nail salon, or you're even a realtor or an emergency room, right? You're just looking at it. You're like, you know what? Not quite as many people are coming in. So maybe tee us up on that scenario, and then let's see what the guy over here to my right who actually has class is going to talk about.
There you go. Well, so I'll use the example of the yoga studio. So, you've got a yoga studio, and every month that, all right, well, usually blank many people will register for my class, and I use that knowledge to create my budget and to say, all right, well, I'm going to forecast that 16 people are going to take this class, which means that we're going to make this much money, which means we can do this and this. And then, lo and behold, you discover that, 16 people didn't register. Only 4 people registered. So that means, all right, I have a couple things I need to do. Number 1, I need to change my forecast. This money that I was going...
No. Step 1, panic.
Freak out.
Step 2,
set the alarm.
Step 2, establish blame.
Yeah, exactly. Figure out whose responsibility it is. But when that class income, which, class income is typically more steady than product income. Because if you say, all right, well, someone has paid $300 for a course that's going to take, 3 months, then you're like, all right, I can reliably count on that income rather than, let's see how many shirts I sold this week.
Yeah.
So now you're at a point where if you didn't get those people registered for that specific class or that specific thing, and maybe it's even a subscription, that you were counting on, you as a local business owner have to make some tough calls. Number one, figure out what I'm going to cut back on, how I need to change spending. And then two, how am I going to get out of the hole? How am I going to get those numbers back? And then trying to figure out why.
Yeah.
Why?
What's
So
going on?
I actually love this scenario as a marketer because you have a history of transactions, right? And now at a certain period of time, all of a sudden, consistently, it started to slide. So I like to look back and go, okay, what correlates with this time frame? Because usually you can find something, you can figure out what the cause was, right? Oh, we changed up our website. We used a different, appointment setting tool, or hey, that's the day that competitor came into the market. So I think you got to really look at those clues because usually you just don't slide without a cause. You know what I mean? Like if you have pretty steady business.
Well, I also want to bring it up because you're our resident expert on this, which is the importance of Google markup schema. I've definitely been in situations where, there's a specific, markup schema is...
What is Google markup schema?
Well, so markup schema is the background computer language that Google uses to figure out what exactly your page is about. So if you have a product page, it wants a certain layout on the back end. Things need to be tagged a certain way versus if it's an event or if it's a class or there's an assortment.
This is something that's in the web code.
Correct. Yeah, it's a coding
And
thing.
it's not only search engines. AI uses it as well.
Absolutely.
That thing's still around, AI?
Yes, still
just
there.
not
And
fad?
then that could be dipping into. Anyways, go ahead.
Don't worry, 2026, no AI.
But one of the things we do here at Indoor Media is that we actually meet with every new customer and do a website audit. I mean, we look at their digital presence, and even today in 2025, where you think, oh, well, a lot of this stuff is automatic, it really isn't. If you're just making your own website and you're like, all right, well, I want to do this event, if you don't have the right markup schema, Google might not even know it exists, and it will not get ranked in the pages, even if you have no competition. If you are in a region of the country where you're relatively remote, it's entirely possible that if it's not set up the right way, Google is not going to see it.
I'm so glad you brought up the analysis that we do because that's really it's a pyramid scheme. It's a triangle. No, it's got a foundation and then we build on it. That's probably the best way to say it. When we sit down and we have that discussion with our customers, and we call it Connection Hub. It's a way to get our customers kind of on board and on the same page. We do a foundation. The first part of the foundation, James, it's interesting you were talking about going to look for the things that have changed. And I think that's exactly right. But the first place I would always look is, am I doing my fundamentals? And what are those? Well, one, do I have a website that's in place and doing the right things? Am I doing local listings? Has anything changed there? Maybe I dropped off a local listing and so now I'm not being found the way I was, or somehow Google got the wrong phone number, whatever that might be. One of the big things is connecting with your customers. Do I have a way to reach out to my current customers? And you may find that one of those fundamental pieces is gone. Maybe it was previously you'd follow up every first class with an email that said, hey, hope you enjoyed the class. Give us, any feedback. We really look forward to coming. And for some reason, that email's not going out anymore. So you really have to reflect yourself first on, am I doing the basics for my business to remind my customers that they should come? Am I asking my customers for reviews? That's one of the big things we tell all of our customers. You guys have all local business owners spend tons and tons of time investing in their business, not to mention the money, not to mention the blood, sweat, and tears. At the end of the day, you got to take that last step. Ask your customers to review you. Hey, go get, and maybe even bring a friend. Get a friend. So if you drop off on some of that most basic stuff. I think that's really where a lot of businesses get in trouble because they didn't know that's what they were doing and they didn't have attribution.
It's also real easy to get into business owner mode, and you send out one email and you don't get a response, and so you go, well, look, I got to make a call. I have to say, all right, let's forget about email for now. I need to do this. And then lo and behold, when you get into the position that the thing that you were relying on didn't work, what do? You go, well, let's look at email. And then, well, you haven't been collecting.
doing it.
You
Yeah.
haven't been reaching out with them. If you had just a basic loyalty email that went out to them, once a month, then that would have been a viable channel. And it's difficult when you're, if you are a pizza expert, yeah, you're not a email marketing expert. But when you get to the moment that people aren't buying as many pizzas as they were before, you absolutely wish that you had kept up with it.
Well, and I mean, the reality is too, it's so easy to get distracted, right? And take your eye off the prize of the basic fundamentals. They're fundamentals because they're so important, right? But you've got all these things that you're hearing about and they might be a little bit more exciting to do. And then, yeah, you realize you dropped the ball on a basic thing, which will have a really big impact.
Really big. And these things seem small. It seems really small to keep having team meetings and staff meetings with all your employees and say, I want to remind all of you this week to talk to your customers as the customers come in. Ask them, have they reviewed us? Ask them, have they told a friend about them? Whatever it might be. A great example of that is what Chick-fil-A does, right? There's even a TikTok where they show a girl, she comes up, she's a Chick-fil-A order taker, and she's talking, and she says, okay, will that complete your order? Oh, well, thank you. I meant my pleasure. And they rip her and take her off, right? But it's true.
I did see that.
They're told to do that, and there's a reason for it because it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the first step, make sure your fundamentals are in place. Any business that's struggling, make sure that's there. It is the lowest hanging fruit because I will tell you the main place that your future customers, your future people spending money come from are people that are already your customers. So you got to really take care of that customer base. Now, let's suppose that's going well and what you realize is that a competitor has surfaced. What do you guys recommend then?
Sabotage or arson?
For starter. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely.
I think segmentation is a big thing because, you can't control how they do their branding. You can only control how you do your branding. And you need to figure out who it is that is your customer and essentially do your own lookalike audience and say, all right, well, I know that the person, so say for instance, like the photography class that I took, the demographic of this was mostly Gen Z and millennial, and it was mostly people who were looking to make a supplementary income doing photography. And so if you can define that and say, all right, these are people who want to be semi-pro at it, and then message them with that message, it will hit them harder rather than if you just say, photography class, register here. So I think that segmentation is pretty crucial to do before you even start writing an ad.
No, I like that. I mean, understanding what your strengths are, understanding what who your audience is. I think again, that's really valuable. You're right because you're right. The other people might just be more for hobbyists, and you're looking for that more serious person. I think that message will resonate with them. So,
yeah.
And I don't know. We want to go too much into it here, but that's another thing I think that plays into indoor media's processes, where there are a number of segments that perform exceptionally well with in grocery store advertising. And if someone comes to us and they say, "Oh, what I do is a software plugin," we have to figure out if we go say, is a grocery store ad right for you? Does it fit our list,
Our code.
our code? In fact,
Yeah.
So it's something that every business has to figure out, which is like who is this for, and how do we
And
operate?
pile onto it, right?
Yeah.
Don't be. I think this is another challenge a lot of local business owners have is they try to be too much and they chase too many different things.
I would say that's the biggest mistake. I've seen that when I had the agency. That would happen. Everybody was scared to miss one person.
Yeah.
Right. Like so
Yeah.
scared. I mean, it's one thing if you sell pizza, right? Like everybody eats pizza, right? Potentially. I mean, you could have a segmentation depending on what you're doing, but the more niche your product, you got to be more niche with your audience and your marketing. That's the only way you can effectively market, because you can't market to everybody, right?
So just to kind of clarify there, when you're saying market to everybody and segmentation, I think we're all talking about messaging, because there's different kinds of marketing channels that will blanket something. And I mean, our own products are that way. Receipt tape and card ads hit a very wide audience.
Very wide and local audience.
A wide and local, yeah. So,
Which is great for
so
pizza.
for geographically, right? So for pizza, your target market is usually a geography. That kind of is a hole in one right there. Even though if I'm advertising at a grocery store and I know I want to make sure I hit these certain people, even for pizza though, I want to make it very clear, and this is where I'm going to add dovetail into segmentation, is differentiation.
Right.
So if I'm Gold Tooth Tony's and I sell Detroit style pizza, and it's a different kind of pizza, it's a small square deep dish, burnt sides. It's really pretty awesome. We're going to go for pizza after this again. That's really important to get out on my advertising, not just that there's an offer and not just, hey, people that might be my audience, I'm here. It's got to be, I'm here and this is why you want me.
Yeah. 100%.
And so that, going back to our hypothetical, or not hypothetical, our anonymous business that we're talking about that's having the classes, when they see that competitor rise, I think what you guys said, I'm just going to reiterate what you just said, is segment by knowing who your market is and differentiate from that other business, because that's if you have all your fundamentals in place and it just turns out for whatever reason they're siphoning off your customers, probably you're not doing a good enough job of differentiating. We know the segmenting was working before because you had your pipeline full and you were filling up your classes. So you're probably hitting the right people, but now they're drawing off and siphoning off some of those people. And you're like, well, wait a second. I just need to go harder on who we are and what we do. Might be a way to think about it.
I like that.
Sure.
So just to kind of recap there. So the audience portion, say it's typically moms that take your class for whatever reason. So that's typically your audience you're speaking to. Now, what are you saying to the moms, right? Not just like, hey, come take a photography class, right? That's pretty generic, but hey, you want to make some supplemental income? We can make that happen.
Yeah, and go hard. If it's moms, do you want to make supplemental income while your kids are at school?
Yeah.
Right.
Drive home to that. Talk to that customer. And this kind of goes back to your fundamentals as well. Talk to your current customers. Why did you come to this class? Ask them every time they come. What did you enjoy today? What was a highlight? What makes this different from other experiences you had? If it's a restaurant, sit down. This is something that I just occurred to me, and I'm surprised. I have never once heard it. I have never heard the restaurant owner or manager come up to me and say, "Hi, Eric. Where else do you eat steak?
Yeah, that's true.
Where else do you go have pizza?" I have never heard that. And we have a fairly tight circle of restaurants that we go to, so I talk to the owner all the time. And because I'm a marketer, I always want to get in there and hear what they're doing and so forth. I have pretty tight relationships. I mean, they know me by name and so forth. Never once have they said, who's my competition?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's true. We have some restaurants too that we go to, and the owner will come around and talk and stuff. But you're right, never once.
I don't know if you can tell, but it's difficult because this mic is on a stand actually, but I just dropped it.
You did. It was very quick.
Yeah.
I think people just get so consumed with themselves, and they think, all right, well, I can control what I'm doing, so I'm not even going to think about that stuff. So I think maybe there's an element of that I don't want to say vanity, but just an element of being a little bit self-centered rather than customer-centered.
And it feels, I think, when you have your own business, you feel like an artist. You feel like I'm putting my artwork out there, right? And I even have a blog article on this about how local business owners are like the great master painters of the past. You put your work out there, right? Here's my burger, here's my class, here's whatever, and you let the world judge, and you do that on a daily basis. It's exhausting. It's really because you're constantly getting that judgment, and you're like, I did this, I put my sweat and tears in there, by golly, you ought to like it. But you forget that even the best movies on the world rarely did it just by word of mouth. Right? Think of the marketing budget for amazing movies and how much the marketing budget is twice what the film cost.
Yeah.
That's because not only do you have to make a great film, you have to cut through all the noise and tell people about it. And that's where I think a lot of people get it's hard. And I think, Roger, you're exactly right. You get caught up in just delivering the product and you're like, well, it should stand on its own. But Field of Dreams is a lie. You can't just build it and they will come. They don't.
Build it and market properly.
Right.
And
I would love, all right, so one episode, what we need to do is come up with a spec marketing plan for the Field of Dreams to the segment of baseball ghosts.
Write that down.
I need to
would
show my
really
kids that
like
movie.
that.
I loved that movie when I first watched it.
If you build it, they will not come.
They
You
will
have
not
to.
come. They are
They
not
build it
coming.
and they may come if you do
If you
X,
are
Y, and Z.
optimized.
Right. What does the Field of Dreams website look like?
What search?
We should. Well, okay, you know what?
Have nice
we
grass.
absolutely need to do this. I think we should do a little dog fooding. We're going to create our own. We're going to have Melissa create our own one-page website for the Field of Dreams, and create up a marketing plan for it.
I love it. I also, to end this, I have a terrible joke that you're all going to get. What search engine do ghosts like to use?
Google.
Google.
There you go. There you go.
Apologies. All right. Well, let's all say I would take an archery class. What about you, James? What kind of class do you think you would take?
I think I've been hearing about improv. I think I'd take an
Take one
improv
of that?
class.
I
And
think you'd enjoy that.
Yeah, I think
you
I
should
would
do
too.
that. Yeah.
What about you, Eric? You already know how to fly a plane. You know how to do improv. What don't you know how to
I was
do?
a professional ballroom dancer too, by the way. One movie.
One movie. What?
One movie.
More to come on that.
What would I do on that? I've been trying to. If I had enough time and I thought it could work, I would. I actually have a list of things I want to do before I'm 60. So and time's ticking. I want to be fluent in French.
Ooh.
You're so close with Sur La Table.
Sur la table. Au revoir.